Hey everybody, how you doing? Saws on the farm here. I got a little Husky 350. Have no clue where this saw even showed up or where it came from. That kind of happens here on the farm. I'll turn around and there'll be a little saw sitting there. You know, a lot of people drop stuff off for me. My father will pick things up for me. You see I'm taking the clutch off right there. Came off really easy because I've had it off before. And I haven't run the saw since the last time I took it off. So sometimes those don't come off very easy, and you'll have to put a little heat to them. A very little bit of heat, not a lot. You don't want to cook your seals or take the hardness out of your crank, but what I'm doing is swapping it out for a ring drive clutch. I like converting those over. That way I can switch between, pitches of chain, 325, 375. This kit came with a couple of different sizes. It's actually got a 7-pin 325 and an 8-pin 325, which I might try for a little more chain speed. This kit that I got came offline. It's got came with a oil drive gear, a new shaft for the oiler. I didn't end up using the shaft, and I did not end up using the oil drive gear that came with it. And the reason for that was the oil drive gear that came with it had a much too large inside diameter, and it would not have sat correctly on the shaft. So I pulled the old one out here and decided to kind of compare it to the new one, and that's when I realized that the inside diameter was way too big. But then I also wanted to see how the old one fit on the back of the old clutch, and you can see there's very little play there. So I tried the new one on there, and that one didn't even fit on there. So the old one on the new clutch drive has a little bit more play in it, but I think it's going to be fine when it's all put back together. But that new one fits tight like the old one did, but like I said, the diameter was wrong. So I'm also I want to get back into that oiler, so take that plate off and make sure it's clean back there. There's a lot of gunk and junk that gets back there. Even though that plate sits pretty secure, there's a lot of stuff that builds up back there. And I'm glad I decided to do this when I did, because I noticed there was a lot of stuff built up around the oiler there, and come to find out, it was loaded with some kind of looked like a plastic bag that had gotten all wrapped up in that oiler shaft. I don't know how that got in there, or what someone would have had plastic anywhere near that for, but you'll see when I pick it out of there. Right now I'm just kind of taking it off camera, blowing it out, and getting rid of all the garbage and gunk in there. All right, we'll get back here all cleaned out, looking a lot better. Now I can start getting to some of this plastic that's built up and gunked in there. I'll pull that oiler right out and pick that stuff all out of there. Get that all cleaned up. Yeah, you can see I start digging at it right here. That's just a mess. I don't know how that even got in there. But like you say, over time, I don't know what kind of damage that could have done in there. If it could have, stopped that thing from turning and stripped out the drive gear. Who knows? But yeah, looks like it could be Teflon tape or some kind of plastic. Not really sure. But yeah, one screw, take that out and pop that oiler up out of there. There's also a rubber oil line that is fit on the front of that little oil pump. And the kit that I got also came with that new rubber line. So I ended up swapping that out, using that as well. Here we go. Now you can see some of that stuff. Probably could have done a little better job making sure I was in the frame here, but you can see, get a good idea of what was built up on there. Good stuff. So after I started checking out this little oil pump here, pull off the old oil line, and I said, well, that kit did come with a shaft. Maybe I'll try to swap that out. And almost made a big mistake here. I put a screwdriver up there and started turning the adjuster screw, and almost stabbed myself right in the hand. And I think at that point, right there, I said, you know what, I think I'm going to leave that right in there. Right after I did that, I realized there's a dowel pin in there that has to be driven out before you can pull that screw out. So I said, you know what, I think I'm going to, there's no damage on that. I think I'm going to leave that in there. Everything looked good, so I decided at that point, instead of putting the screwdriver through my hand, I'll just leave it the way that it is. So we'll go off camera, blow that thing out good, clean it up, get it ready to put back in. Now we get that oiler cleaned up, grab that saw, and finish blowing that thing out. Make sure there's nothing left in there. I like to clean things out real good, put things back together clean. At least then I know that there isn't a bunch of stuff in there that's going to cause a problem. Okay, all cleaned up, ready to start putting things back together. Got that new oil line. Matches up good to the old one. Looks perfect. Put that back on the pump the way that it came apart. We'll drop that back in the saw there, and one screw to hold that thing back on. All right, once we got that back on, the next thing is going to be the drive gear for the pump. Again, I think I show the difference between the two here. I throw that one on, and you can see it's just real sloppy and loose. So I'll pull that back out and throw the original one back in, like I said, which I think is going to be fine even with the new drive, the drive on the clutch drum. It's a little bit sloppy, but it's only spinning in that one direction. So, but at least the gear will be tight and drive the pump the way that it's supposed to. Here you can clearly see the difference between the two. I don't know why that one wasn't the right size for the kit. Everything else seemed to work fine. Also, when I put these back together, I like to put a little bit of grease on the worm gear and the drive shaft there, just to make sure that it's got a little bit of lubrication. Some people might use white lithium grease, something like that. I like to use just a dielectric grease. I use that on a lot of things for these saws. When I'm assembling any of the rubber components that tend to fight you when you're putting them in, I use a little dielectric. It's not its intended use, but it works all right on that kind of stuff. Okay, we'll grab this plate here. That thing's pretty gunked up. We'll go off camera and get that cleaned up. All right, we'll get that put back on there. That plate should be one screw that holds that on. Making sure that the oil line is sitting down where it should be. Okay, we've got that gear or worm drive all greased up, ready to go back in. I have to seat that down in there, make sure it sits down in there nice and flat. So right now I'm greasing up the bearing for the clutch drum. Again, I use dielectric, just get a little bit of grease in there. Some people might frown on that, but I've always had good luck with it, no issues. So right now I've got the, just checking it on there, make sure it fits down in there. And I think I'm gonna pull that back off, get my ring drive put back on there. And I believe I went with the 8-pin on that. Yeah, I threw the bigger one on. We'll try that. And I got the saw tipped back at an angle, so that thing kept wanting to fall off on me. But if the saw is sitting flat, things will kind of stay together for you while you're putting it there. Just took me a little extra time to get it on there. Then I'll grab the clutch and spin that back in there. On the clutch, you'll see on a lot of these little saws, there's a directional arrow, and the word off is actually embossed right onto the side of the clutch, and it helps to show you which direction to spin that thing when you're taking it off. But like I said, on this side of the saw, it's a left-hand thread, so it's backwards from what you would expect. So I'm just hand tightening this here, and accidentally knocked one of the little pieces of spring steel back. Those are actually what separate your clutch dogs, and you want to make sure those are in there straight. Those are just the extra parts. All right, the first thing we're going to do after we get that clutch on is put the side brake cover back on. And the reason for this is if you start that saw without that cover on and set your brake initially, that clutch will come spinning off of there so fast and go flying up in the air and smash into the side of your barn. Ask me how I know that. And you'll have parts everywhere. So make sure you put that side cover on. Start the saw with the brake on. That'll tighten the clutch initially. Then take the brake off, rev it up, and snap it one more time. If you don't do that, you'll have a mess, and you will regret it. Just a little tip from somebody that found out the hard way. So there's the Husky 350. When I get the carb kit, I'll do a video on that. And then we'll get a bar and chain on it and get it in the wood and see how it cuts. Thanks for watching.
Papa, Papa, Papa.